but they may come in very large numbers. Now, the other threat we have is that our borders are very porous. Porous borders mean that you can take any route, not only the designated points of entry. They are well-designated points of entry where you go with your passport, whatever, you identify yourself, you cross, isn't it? But there are also undesignated points of entry where you can cross. And because we have relatives on the other side, if Jane Aceng crosses onto this side, you will not know whether I'm a Congolese or a Ugandan. It happens, isn't it? But when there is unrest on the other side, the majority of the people will not use designated points of entry. Why? Because they are looking for safety. And when you're looking for safety, you don't wait to be told, use that door. If a fire broke out now, very few of you will use that door. The majority of you will use this window. I don't know where the window will take us, but it is the nearest. So that is what happens when there is unrest. So those are the reasons I am giving you for us to be on alert. And from the health perspective, safe from the outbreak of Ebola. The country's policy on refugees is very clear. We don't close our borders to refugees. We leave them to come in and integrate with us. So anybody who may have had contact may come in and not necessarily go into the camp, but may jump on a bus and come up to Kampala because they have relatives. You don't want to know what will happen if Ebola lands in a city. It is disaster. So they can go anywhere in the country. And you will not know whether they are Ugandans or not Ugandans. But we want to thank God that our teams working together with the UNHCR are very vigilant on identifying persons and also screening people at the border. So what is going on at the border? Constant screening every day. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we get nearly over 20,000 people on a Tuesday crossing over for trade and other purposes. Similarly on Thursdays. But in the event that the election doesn't go on well, the numbers may exceed the 20,000. But we need the population to remain calm and to remain objective. Because when we have a calm population, then we can work. If we have people who are in disarray and confusion, we can't work. So screening is going on at the border. But screening is also going on all over the country. And I think Dr. Nanyonja told you this. On a daily basis, every year, 24/7, we scan Uganda because Uganda is prone to outbreaks. Uganda is prone to outbreaks. There may be outbreaks that we already know, but there may also be new ones that may come up. We don't know. New diseases keep on coming. That's why we call them emerging and re-emerging infections. And usually, between the month of August up to December, we get Ebola outbreaks. Usually. Sometimes they don't happen. Sometimes they happen. This time round, we are about to end the year without an Ebola outbreak. We thank God, but there is a threat on the other side. It is our prayer that the outbreak in the DRC is controlled and it comes to an end. We also don't want them to die. One death is one too many. We keep on praying, that we find a solution to control the outbreak. It is not that they don't have the capacity, they do. But when you're controlling an outbreak in the midst of a rebel activity, it is not easy. They can't access the population easily. With the Mai Mai, they have to negotiate. And they're allowed in today, tomorrow they are not allowed in. With the ADF, they are not allowed in. So you can see their dilemma. So if somebody has had contact and disappears where the rebels are, you will only know when many people are dying in a certain area that there is a problem there. That is why the outbreak has gone on for too long. We need to support them. We need to work with them so that we are up to date, especially as we move closer, to these days of the voting in the DRC. But also avoid sensational reporting that causes anxiety among the populations. I will tell you what happened one time with Ebola in, I think it was in Luero. We had one case of Ebola in Luero. At the same time, we were having Marburg. This was 2014. And then some journalists went and reported that actually there is no Ebola in Luero. The Ministry of Health is just interested in per diem. Yes, it was in the newspapers. So what happened? All the contacts disappeared. All the contacts disappeared. Because they are saying, if they want per diem, we won't show up. So they don't get their per diem. You can imagine the situation we are in. Because just one contact can cause havoc. And when we are isolating contacts, we don't isolate them in facilities. We isolate you in your home because we want you to be comfortable. If you have had a contact, we isolate you where? In your home. If you're a probable case, we isolate you in a facility. You get the difference? So when you hear about our surveillance people following up contacts, we go to your homes every day, take temperature, engage with you, talk with you, look at you, examine you. If we see anything slight telling us, this person is not okay, then we move you. Because if we are to isolate all of you in the facilities, it would be too crowded, and we can't feed you. And you need to be fed. We must keep the population calm and not cause sensation. Ebola is not about per diem. There is no per diem that is equivalent to life. Paying health workers 50,000 shillings per day or 80,000 shillings per day, for me, I don't even want to talk about it. It is no money. Because if a health worker gets sick and dies, do you think 80,000 can bring back life? We call it a risk allowance, but it is no allowance. So don't go and tell the population there is no Ebola, these people want per diem. And for me, in any case, I'm not given any per diem. I talk about Ebola, I go to the place, I don't get the per diem. So now if you say the PS and the minister want per diem, really, it is not about per diem, it is about life and death. About life and death. So let's avoid sensational reporting. Because we can't afford to have deaths. All human lives matter. So for me, my message to you is report correctly, report timely, avoid sensational reporting that causes anxiety among the population, be in constant contact with us, and work with us. Whenever we have outbreaks, there are certain groups of people that matter. The religious leaders matter. The population must be protected. So the catchword is protect your brother and sister. Protect each other. That is what the health regulations are about. So as we move out into the festive season, that should be our number one agenda, to protect the over 42 million people in Uganda, but also protect the very many people in the world. Because Ebola travels fast, it can travel by air, it can travel by road, from one person to another. And anywhere it goes in the world, it is a problem. We don't want it there. Ebola devastates economies. I was telling you how much it costs to control an outbreak. Right now, we are just in a preparedness mode. Preparedness. I hope Dr. Nanyonja told you the difference between preparedness, between response. You're very conversant with those. Somehow. So we are in a preparedness mode. But in this preparedness mode, I think we've already spent over 19 million US dollars in preparedness alone. 19 million US dollars. Now you imagine if there is a case, how much do you think we spend? That is why the 3 countries in West Africa are still recovering. It is not easy. Carrying out surveillance on a daily basis, facilitating people to move among the population. When you hear an alert case, somebody crossed in from DRC with fever, whatever, a sample is removed. All the contacts are surrounded up, isn't it? And then we start following up the contacts for 21 days. That costs fuel, isn't it? It costs personnel. Transporting the sample to here costs fuel. Analyzing the sample costs money. Sending back results. And there are many things happening at the border. All those people we are screening on a daily basis, it is money. So it is very expensive. First of all, the magnitude of any outbreak depends on how fast you diagnose and how fast you respond. That is the trick. How fast you diagnose. If you can diagnose an outbreak within 4 hours, within 6 hours, 12 hours, and you respond, you've done a good job. Because you will be able to isolate the victims before they have lots of contacts. But also, when you're able to bring those people on board, by the way, the chances of survival of any person with Ebola are higher when you are in a health facility being attended to. When you're being rehydrated, when you're being cared for, your chances of survival are higher than when you are left out in the community. Fever causes a lot of sweating. You lose fluids very fast, and the fever of Ebola is high. So you need to be constantly rehydrated, and then we treat all the complications that come with it. Your chances of survival are higher. And that also addresses the issue of a high mortality. But now, with the advent of these therapeutic treatments that are on clinical trials, the chances are higher. Of course, with the vaccines, the chances are higher. But also the systems we have in place, that we all support. You support the system, we support the system. Transporting samples, giving back results, having people who are ready to respond are systems that we have in place. But the systems that we have developed start from the grassroots, the community. And that is why you are very important, because you have first contact with the communities. In every outbreak, the communities are important, because they are the ones who will come up and tell you there is an unusual death there. Somebody died in that house, we don't know out of what. Our village health teams are trained in surveillance. The samples for Ebola or for any outbreak that is related to viral hemorrhagic fevers does not follow the normal routine procedure where they are packed and then we wait for our means of transport to bring them, because they are urgent. They must be loaded on a vehicle immediately, packed, cross-checked for biosafety, biosecurity, loaded and brought directly to UVRI. On a daily basis from the west border, I think we have nearly 6 vehicles plying that route every day. 6 vehicles. Others are coming, others are returning. Others are coming from Ntoroko, Bundibujo, Bunyangabo to the central place. Another one is picking. Can you imagine that network and the costs? It is enormous. So that is what is happening. So when you hear that there is an alert case, track the sample, don't rush to report, know where it is, what has happened, the result is given back, and then we move. So encourage our communities to demystify what Ebola is. The communities are very important because they can make or destroy a response to any outbreak. If the communities are responsive and very understanding, it is easy to control an outbreak. If the communities are resistant, it is very difficult to control an outbreak because people will scatter and spread the outbreak. And that is what happened in West Africa. Keep Uganda safe, to support us, ensure that we all have a calm festive season as we celebrate the birth of Christ, but also to support us to ensure that the systems we have in place can withstand the test of time. You are part of the system in this outbreak. So I wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. You can send me a WhatsApp if you're not very clear about some information. But during the Christmas season, you can call. I will also be sitting at home, but on alert, you know.